Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Onboard Hospitality Taste of Travel session looking at new catering concepts. My name is Lance Hayward. I'm the MD and founder of the Hayward Partnership, a group of independent industry experts from around the world providing consultancy and interim management services to the travel, catering, and retail sector. It's my great pleasure to moderate this panel debate, which is set against the backdrop of let's face it, a painful business environment for the past 18 months. Our industry has been forced to pause, rethink, and reset itself. Most organizations have been faced with a devastating downturn in volumes and revenue, which really required a focus on survival and cost cutting, while at the same time keeping people motivated throughout the process. Meanwhile, consumer experience and expectations have shifted and accelerated. Technology has been widely embraced for communication and retailing, and most people now expect ease of transaction and almost instant fulfillment as part of normal life. Business process and norms have also changed. Organizations have discovered they can function without the daily commute and maintain internal and external relationships in the most part remotely. So, how has all of that impacted the development of new catering concepts? Sharing their views, I am delighted to introduce a glittering array of industry talent. As I introduce each one, I will invite them to provide a bit more background on themselves and explain why this topic is important for them. So if I can kick off with Robin Paget. He's the president of the Airline Catering Association and divisional SVP for catering and retail at Donata. Welcome, Robin.
Hello, Lance. Thank you to everyone who's in to listen to this. As Lance said, I am responsible for Donata Catering and Retail's global operations, and there's a hint in the name about what we do. We look after the catering services of many airlines, some 150 across our network, across 65 locations globally, and we also very importantly run a large number of retail programs now on board, and I suspect a large part of this session will be focusing more on that retail piece and where that's going and the inflection point we're in at this moment, and why this moment in time presents a magnificent opportunity for industry rather than a cause for concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Our next panelist is Anthony McNeil, who's Food and Beverage Director in-flight service delivery for Singapore Airlines. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Lance. And yes, looking forward to an engaging conversation, not only about retail on board and buy on board product, but also a brief overview about pre-ordering on board, and also the journey that Singapore Airlines has gone through to bring that to life. And looking forward to hearing the conversation points around that and bringing that to life further into the discussion. So thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Anthony. Over to Germany now, Jose Lirio Silva. Welcome, Jose.
Hi, Lance. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. Looking forward to the session and to the good discussions. So retail has always been my passion. I worked before joining Retail in Motion in 2014, 7 years for a wholesale retailer Metro Group in Germany. Been abroad, and now for 8 years I'm responsible for onboard retail in Europe. We manage more than 40 airlines globally in the areas of technology and onboard retail, managed services. So, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I should have mentioned that Jose is the head of onboard retail in Europe for Retail in Motion. And last but by no means least, Michelle Green, Head of Business Development, Strategy and Innovation for Tovest Retail Services. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Lance. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this session. I think it has been a tough 18 months, to say the least. I think we've all had to stop, refocus, and have a look at what we do. And it's going to be really interesting to explore some new sort of like ideas and opportunities that are out there in the market, and how we can work together to get the best solution really for our industry as a whole. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Michelle. Let's kick off with some questions. Robin, if I can go to you first. You and the other members of the Airline Catering Association are long enough in years to be no stranger to facing these industry crises over the years. And is this crisis any different? If so, in what way?
Well, Lance, thank you for that lovely question. The answer is both yes and no. The answer, the no question is, the no part of it is, any different. Like all crises ease before this, we will come out of it, and we are coming out of it. We're seeing that very, very clearly at the moment. Because once that doesn't matter what about SARS, 9/11, Icelandinos, or whatever, the depth and the length of it have been extraordinary. And all of us rated the real world. You can't fail to notice the lack of contrails in the sky when you look up, and the lack of business there. So you don't have to be a business genius to work out and how thoroughly it is impacted every single sector of this business. Now, the interesting bit will be how it can where they come from, and we have for many clearly markets that have strong domestic focus. US, China, internal domestic flying is available. They seem to be bouncing out of that very strongly. Indeed, we even saw a little bit of that in Australia until their recent lockdown. And my sympathies go out to all of our colleagues down in Australia who are, back where we were in Europe, I think, sort of 6 months ago, are now experiencing some of the difficulties we had over here. So for me, the depth of it is quite extraordinary. The severity of it is quite extraordinary. But our ability to come out of an industry is exactly the same as previous ones. And when we reflect back on any of the previous ones, there was always a lull. And whether that was 6 weeks or 3 months or a little bit longer. And then the bounce back always caught us as an industry off guard. It feels like Groundhog Day, or hopefully it'll feel like Groundhog Day when we're saying, wow, that was quick. And I had the good fortune to fly around the States back in June. And I did a little bit of a tour around Texas down to California down to Texas, and then across to Florida and up to the Northeast to New York. And what struck me was planes were completely full. I struggled to buy seats because capacity was being stretched, and the airlines I spoke to over there were struggling to get their capacity on fast enough. So it showed me that people weren't afraid of flying. They weren't afraid of the virus and the health issues that go with that. I suspect they see them as manageable, in certain ways. But they were concerned, I think, with rule changes. So that's why they're staying domestically. So it gave me great comfort. And as we're starting to see here in Europe, where I'm talking from today, the bounce back and the way things are going seems to be very impressive at the moment. We're just seeing the rules ease off, and we're starting to get it back into flight. So I am confident that this is the worst crisis I think we've seen since a major global war. So that will be back ending at 1945. But I'm also confident that we will come out of this in a healthy manner, well reorganized, having really looked at our business models, having really looked at how we set ourselves up as both individual businesses and an industry, and leaner and fitter.
Thank you, Robin. Is that pretty much the same experience for the rest of the panel? Is that It's a devastating hit, but something that we're confident that we're going to get through and bounce back the way we've done before. Let's go. I'm coming to you in a second, Michelle. So, Jose, perhaps you can share your thought.
Yes, yeah, I agree with Robin. This industry has always managed to come out of the crisis, and I think nowadays with all the digitalization, with other technology, we have more tools than ever to come out of this crisis, and it will be faster than ever. You can already experience what Robin says. The aircrafts in the US are full now. Europe is catching up. People really want to fly. For sure, business travel will have an impact going forward. But my view is that in a few years, it will come back to the same levels. It will take a bit longer, but leisure travel will overcompensate. So this is our view. And in the end, this is people, everyone around. They want to go on holidays. They want to visit friends. They want to visit the family. So I think that the industry will benefit also from this desire of the people.
Yeah. Thank you, Jose. Michelle, did you want to add anything to that?
I think I echo what Jose was saying there. So, well said.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sticking with, sorry, Anthony, were you just about to step forward there?
I was indeed. I think also from an airline's perspective, the planning that's going on behind the scenes is certainly indicative of the changes in the environment. So, it may just be a matter of a key being turned to restart services to particular destinations, but either way, it's looking positive for the near to midterm. So let's hope it comes sooner than later.
Yeah. And is it as simple as just turning on the key? Because you can see there's a slow tail of volume increase, and operations have to sort of gear up something which has been kind of mothballed for a long period of time.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we certainly engage our catering partners, ground handlers, well in advance of the resumption of services, even to the point where we are, asking the catering teams, how long do you need to ramp up for services? So the example being in the US, we're looking at certain cities. We're dealing directly with the caterers to say, how long do you need to recruit? How long do you need to rehire? What's your badging process? Recertification for truck drivers and so on, just so that we can build a grounded image of what's going to move forward. So we can go back to our network planning here in Singapore and say, LA needs 5 weeks, San Francisco needs 7 weeks, or if we introduce a second flight to New York, for example, what's the additional lead time? Because we're trying to work within the guidelines of what the caterers have. And if they're telling us that, we need to employ another 10 cooks and another 4 drivers, and it's going to take us a month to do that, then there's no point to recommence services this week. So, and of course, working with your partners is key. But, as you lead and you plan accordingly for that, we hope that the turnkey solution is rather quicker than later.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anthony. Let's move to the subject of the passenger themselves. Jose, do you think that the post-pandemic passenger expectation has changed? Is there such an animal as a post-pandemic passenger?
So, like I mentioned, everyone has the desire to fly again. Everyone wants to travel, to go on holidays, etc. So, what we see is that the pandemic hasn't changed too much the customer expectations. However, they have accelerated trends which were already there. The topic of customization. Yeah, people want to have choice. Yeah, they don't want to have just the classical pasta or chicken choice. Then also, like I mentioned before, the digitalization aspect plays a big role. So this enables, for example, to order from your own seat, from your own device, things that you don't have to wait just when the crew is there. This enlarges the choice again. The ease of transaction. So you pay via your own device. Yeah, you pay contactless. This is something which here around the world, I think in Europe, in the bakeries, everywhere you can pay contactless now. It wasn't possible before, but everybody is accepting this now, this cashless topic. Yeah, so all of our airlines have moved cashless. Yeah, and we thought this might be a hit in the spend of the passenger, but no, it's even in contrary. Some services go even faster. Yeah, because everybody has their mobile down in their hands. Very often they don't have the wallet; they have it at the overhead bins. So this makes things also faster. Then, if we look into the topic of the food itself, there was the trend already of sustainable food, of healthy food, but this has been accelerated now also with the topic of choice, but also with the consciousness of health through the pandemic, where everybody's looking into be more healthy because perhaps they have only been in the home office. So this is a very, very large expectations which the passenger has, and I think this has been accelerated and emphasized.
You used the word accelerate there quite a lot. It sounds like there's, the trends were already in place, but this pandemic seems to have put the steroids into the conversation. Is that a fair reflection?
Yeah, absolutely. Also in terms of the safety and security for the crew. Yeah, so the crew only has to hand over the product, not to take payments anymore, not to take cash. So these trends were there already, but lots of airlines were cautious to introduce them. But now they have been kind of forced, and they've seen that it works. Yeah, the same topic in another world is the topic of home office. Yeah, lots of people thought home office will not work, but this was proof of concept now.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the post-pandemic passenger, guys?
Lance, I just want to echo really what Jose has to say. I don't think anything we're seeing or we'll see post-pandemic will be new, but the accelerant effect that Jose talked about, the speed of change, is the extraordinary thing. And if I think about a project we worked on a couple of years ago for an airline, where an important part of it was cash handling and making sure we controlled the physical money aspect. That's dead. We were saying at the time, why are you worried about cash? And they're saying it's really important for our customer base, now the demographics we work with. And we kind of understood that, but we disagreed. And that conversation is no longer there. People have moved, as Jose very clearly said, moved very swiftly in markets which we thought would take 10 years to change, have changed in less than 10 months. So, I think what you have to do is look at previous trends and then try and work out, the exponential effect of how quickly they're being embedded into our business.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be the rate of change and the extent to which people are willing to grab hold of new ways of doing things seems to have really been the sort of fundamental change. Michelle, was there something that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think one of the things we're actually seeing as well is the fact that customers that are returning now, as such, have got this pent-up demand, etc. Real sort of like want to go and travel, and we're seeing that some of the products that they are selecting are very different to maybe they would have selected when they were traveling before. But potentially that's a short-lived sort of trend, as in champagne prosecco. It's the celebration. I'm actually free. I'm traveling again, and I want to celebrate. And it's quite interesting to see how that is sort of like coming through quite clearly, I think, in some of the trends certainly we're seeing.
Yeah, and just sticking to that whole concept of the customer and the customer journey, has the customer journey itself and the dynamics of the Buy on Board program been impacted as a result of that? Stay with you, Michelle.
Yes, I think it has, to be honest. I think everything that Jose was saying about the fact that digital has come in, I echo what you were saying as well about it's just accelerated our programs. They were already in place. It's just whereby we thought it would take 1, 2, 3 years and had staging to bring that in. We're doing it all now. So certainly during the pandemic, we were as busy as ever, just bringing forward all of those strategies at Tourvest. One of the things that we do is we have a look at the customer decision-making journey. So not the customer's journey as as such, but where the customer is going to be making a decision about their purchase, about how they're going to fly, how they want to personalize their journey. And I think when you start to look at that in more detail, what comes out of it is that you've got an impulse purchase and you've got a considered purchase as well. And you want to be able to make sure that you satisfy those needs. We all want choice, and I think again you picked up on the fact that choice is king, and we will all sort of like push of a button and get what we want when we want it now. Why can't we have that on board an aircraft? I think is sort of like really what we've sort of like discovered and looked at, and we can offer that. It doesn't always have to be that it's on board pushing down a trolley on board an aircraft with a set shop that you may or may not have a product in there that you want when it actually arrives with you, and you eat when you are going to be told to eat as such. So I think by looking at that decision-making journey for the customer, what we've been able to pinpoint is actually, and I know we'll talk more about it, I'm sure, during this session, is the pre-order element, and how you can offer that choice and range change for the considered purchaser prior to journey, but the impulse purchaser during the journey as well. So yeah, I think the dynamics of buy on board have changed quite a lot, and cash is not around anymore. Do you ever carry cash at the moment? I mean, it's like you just don't. You just have a card and that's it. And it's right through. I think across the world, it's a trend that's happened, but also from age groups. I think if I look at my parents, I wouldn't have thought that they would have adopted and changed, but there they are on Facebook, WhatsApp, you name it, doing all these great things. That the QR codes in restaurants and bars are the norm now in many places, and that's what people expect to see. So yeah, I think it's changed. I think it's had to change, and for the better.
That's so insightful, and you can see it all around you. I can't go to the corner shop anymore and part with cash. It's I get pointed to a machine. I suppose that the question is that striking that balance between delivering what you were talking about there, Michelle, in terms of what you want when you want it, and the infrastructure that surrounds the whole of the catering industry. There's always seemed to be a choice in the past where you can deliver that choice, but it's going to cost in terms of operational complexity and becomes unviable. Is that moved on a bit?
I think it has, when you start to look at it slightly differently, as much as with the pre-order element, you're able to then offer a wider choice, but not have the weight restriction on board, the space restrictions on board, the waste. All of those things can be managed in a far better way from the ground. So I do think that there's been quite a lot of changes, and that sort of like balance between the complexities we are able to manage by saying it's just not one point of sale anymore. It's not just that cart on board the aircraft. So you can have, you always get, if you go to a supermarket, you go shopping, and when you get to the till, you've got your last minute sort of like items at the till that try and tempt you, etc. It's no real difference to that. If you are a considered purchaser and you know exactly what you want, then you can pre-order. But that doesn't suit everyone. We're all different. I may not know what I want later on. I'm rushing around. That doesn't mean to say that the actual element on board for the sales should go. It just means it could be slightly different. And I think when we start to think differently, it starts to open up lots of opportunities to be able to take some of that complexity and cost out, but still offer the choice for the customer.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Robin, did you want to step in there? I can see you leaning forward there.
Yeah, no. Michelle has made a lovely point about that considered purchase versus the impulse buy, and I think for us in an industry, we just got to be a little bit careful at the moment to understand the sort of bumps on the road as we go forward from here, because we're certainly seeing an explosion in pre-order. People are really interested in buying, but what we have to ask ourselves is that people being more considered at the moment because they're having to really plan their journeys. I've just done a whole series of flights over the last few months, and before every flight, there's a ton of paperwork to do. You're getting PCR forms done, you're checking every rule, for the countries you're going to and from, and that kind of stuff. And so you're thinking more about your journey possibly than you've ever done before in the past. And certainly I've thought, about my purchase points, and I did a flight recently on a well-known European LCC, and I pre-planned everything I was going to do in a way that I've never done before. And I wonder, is this an uplift in pre-order that's sustained, that people will plan their journeys a lot more carefully forever, or if it's a bump where they're just doing it because the whole system, the whole journey is more complex at the moment, more difficult and less impulsive than possibly it was pre-COVID. So I think we just have to be a little bit careful about overdoing pre-order. I think pre-order is critical going forward, but is it everything? I'm not 100% sure about that yet. And I'll be curious to see over the next 6 to 12 months to see how that pre-order goes overall. I think it's more a question for us about overall personalization and how we can learn more about customers before they get to us who haven't pre-ordered, and how we can think about what they might order as their impulse. And there, over to Jose, who I'm 100% sure has something to say on this.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with you, Robin, and we have called it, therefore, not isolated pre-order and in-flight. So we have called it the whole concept food on demand. So this means it's exactly when the passenger wants it. Does he want to pre-order? He can pre-order. Does he want to have it on board? He can have it on board. So this takes both possibilities into account. Yeah, and agree with you. Pre-order in the times of pandemic, when you plan, etc., etc. But people will go back to a more normal way, and then you want to decide what you want to buy, like in the restaurant, just 30 minutes, 15 minutes before you get the meal.
I think we're getting into that pre-order discussion quite well. So I'm going to change the order a little bit and that we had before, and start exploring that from a full service perspective. Anthony, is pre-order something that Singapore Airlines is now sort of really taking off? Where are you on that?
Look, Singapore Airlines, I think, has been long established and probably well recognised for its Book the Cook program, which has been, I think, around 12 to 14 years, somewhere in that mark, in terms of pre-order for premium cabins. Obviously, the premium dining experience, allows the customer, to secure their choices prior to flight, and of course, the pre-ordering continues to gain popularity, as the world moves to home delivery forums, whether it be Uber or Grab Eats or what have you. So, the customer can see the benefits of the choice and the availability of meals in terms of pre-order for flights. And of course, with the extended choice and options and the pre-book opportunities, when you book your ticket, you can pre-book your meal, or up to 24 hours you can pre-book your meal. So I think, the days of, sorry, sir, your choice is unavailable is coming to a close fairly soon. But, we talk about buy on board opportunities. I think even legacy airlines are looking for incremental revenue opportunities within their own cabin spaces. So whether it be, an economy class passenger upgrading their meal for $20, $30 from a business class menu as an opportunity, or like a piece of beef, or, if you want to eat an Impossible meat product, maybe something that suits your lifestyle that you can manage, whether it be also a bottle of champagne in the premium economy space that you're taking, from the beverage menu that may not have been available to you previously. I think those opportunities for pre-order are also key. So, the platforms for duty-free are there. I don't think there's not much distance between the duty-free order platform and delivery in flight for that sort of opportunity, but it's just, again, re-examining the model, how we can remap it for direct in-flight customer consumption. It's certainly something which is increasing in popularity, and if we look at how the pandemic has allowed the business to evolve, we've taken the time internally to work with our customer insights team, our customer experience team, to listen to the frequent travelers, and also to listen to the non-frequent travelers, the people who are once a year, twice a year for their annual vacations, to the regular business people that fly on short haul between, Singapore, Bangkok, Singapore, Jakarta. We see those passengers a couple of times a week up and down. So, the transition is one thing about maintaining quality in terms of meal delivery. Working with the catering partners to ensure we can meet local catering needs, but also to ensure that, particularly in the current environment, that we can match the supply chain availability, because the global supply chain disruption has also impacted our pre-order opportunities at station overseas. So it's really, again, coming back to the communication process, making sure we can see the opportunities at station and how we can leverage that, so we can continue those pre-order opportunities, throughout the cabin. So one of the things that was interesting that came through in the feedback from customers were the option not to eat, or the option to deselect a meal for in-flight. And as a legacy carrier, Singapore Airlines, I think, is quite conservative, and they are listening to their home base. Singaporeans are quite passionate about their food and beverage for in-flight. But what we did was we took some of these elements in pre-pandemic, and we built a structure around it so we could just test and measure on the sectors that were initially flying. And the feedback on those sectors where we chose the pre-order to not to eat was quite impressive. It actually took us a little bit by surprise. So that was one element of the pre-order opportunity that we took advantage of. That in itself is a waste management tool. It also gives us an opportunity to look at the lounge offerings, where people may choose to eat in the lounges on short haul, and then they decide not to eat on board flight. So that's another element of that opportunity. But coming back towards the mapping of the IT components, and I'm certainly non-IT savvy in this regard, but if I put it in sort of layman's terms, the booking flow would be very simple in terms of the pre-ordering opportunity. You check in for your flight, you select your seat, and then you get the pop-up for your meal preference. It could be book the cook, it could be a special meal, you could even select from the route menu. Now, the opportunity with route menu is interesting because you have the ability to see what's flying on that plane on that day, but to entice your customers to engage in the pre-order opportunity rather than waiting for the meal to be delivered to you on flight, is to give them a wider choice. So you may have three main course meals flying, but if you pre-order, you may have a choice of 5 or 6 meals, which obviously widens your opportunities there. And of course, you have the opportunity not to eat. So, by doing that, we've increased the digital footprint, which has been well received. People understand, not only for COVID requirements, but I think it makes sense from a printing perspective and saving weight and paper on board the aircraft. But people see the value because they've got a digital device in their hand. They can scan a QR code, which is on a digital menu on board the aircraft, or they can scan a QR code, which is also on the screen when you do your check-ins. And that in itself is also providing a level of engagement where we're drawing data from, and we can start to see how people are utilizing that information. And we can see behind the scenes what the pickup is or what the trend is. People are interested, people are browsing, people are clicking or not clicking or unclicking. You can see if they're changing their minds through that process. So it's quite interesting. But the other element of the pre-order is that we've extended pre-order into the premium economy cabin, which is something that we've introduced quite recently, pre-COVID. And of course, the pre-order in that space allows for the premium economy passenger to sort of really get what they want. There's already 3 choices in premium economy, but 2 additional choices again expands the offering. Variety is key and choice is key, and people really, I think, feel they feel important when they have that much choice available to them, and that's really driving the service experience forward.
One of the things that really struck me when you were talking there was about there's additional retail opportunities so that people can tailor. Are we getting to a point where caterers are morphing into more retail focused? Is that are we more retailer than caterer these days? Robin, I know you had a few comments on that one before.
Thank you, Lance. It would be churlish of me not to say yes to that, given the division I head up is called Donata Catering and Retail, and we took that name on about 18 months ago. Look, I think we've got to be careful here, because there's two slightly different things in that. Catering is a discipline, and it's one that requires a great deal of skill, a great deal of organisation, and a lot of knowledge. Retail equally so, but they require different skill sets, now catering can inform retail, because you can produce products to sell on board, or you can be part of the process, the supply chain process that does the fulfillment for that. But I think there are two disciplines in their own right, and in the Venn diagram of these things, there's a lovely bit of crossover, but you can split them out separately, and you can be a pure play caterer, and I think survive in this world as long as you've got the right level of focus and the right level of quality for your customers. And equally, you can be a pure play retailer in the aviation space and thrive. We've elected as Donata to do both, because we think we've got the skills for both, but I'm not sure that's normal for everybody. And when I look at Anthony and what people like SQ demand, I think, and Anthony, I hope you don't mind me saying so, I think you come from a very traditional catering space, and one I'm very envious of, by the way, because it's one of my favourite places to be, where old school culinary techniques still hold vital importance for the airline in the way in which they engage with their customers. Singapore makes a great standing out of its overall service philosophy, and part of the central core of that, to me, and it's Anthony looking at it from the outside, is the way in which you position the food. And I think it's just a retailer coming in and saying, look, we'll buy some product and hand it over to you, isn't the same as chefs preparing and making a wonderfully authentic product developed and constructed by the guys at SQ.
Yeah, I think that was a sort of spin-off point to that. By giving the choice down to the passenger, does SQ lose its USP for, it's almost a destination restaurant, isn't it, to go to some of these airlines, and SQ being one of the top of the pile?
No, my argument there would be no, not at all. In fact, SQ gains more power because they treat a wider range of products and a wider range of choices within the style, the culinary style in which they want to be known for. Sorry, we're talking about Anthony, and Anthony should be answering that one, I
wonder. Robin touched it beautifully. I think I can turn off again. But, I mean, Robin is correct, and the one thing that SQ pride themselves on is being obviously a market leader, and a lot of airlines will look to SQ in terms of what's happening, what's going on in Singapore, and how we can engage globally. And I'm not saying that they will replicate exactly what is being achieved by Singapore Airlines, but they will take elements of their own initiative to drive those forward. So whether it be a pre-order opportunity into the future, a book-to-cook similarity, but the essence is that if SQ were going to look at buy on board opportunities to supplement or incremental revenues, I'm sure that the rest of the world would stand up and take notice. Obviously, it's something which is not in the focus at this present time. But the point being is, if something happens at SQ, people generally stand up and take notice. And I think even in my previous life, and Robin will know this as well, the benchmark comparisons between Emirates or between Qatar or Etihad, Singapore Airlines, Cathay, they all balance and align themselves. So there's integral elements of each airline that work very well and very similar. And then there's the unique signature elements. So whether it be the Emirates Meze, or whether it be the Singapore Laksa, or the lobster thermidor, for which SQ is famous for at the western end of the business. But these are things that people recognise as signature, right? And they may be somewhat dated, but we also have modern interpretations of those favourites coming through. So we're not standing still in that place.
Yeah. So how likely is it? Do we think that the back end of long haul is going to start considering retail models? I mean, it's been whispered for a while. We've seen some flag carriers out there who are full service short hauls who've now sort of stepped over the line into retail for short haul. Is it a far distant future when we can see a retail program for the economy end of the planes?
So if I may,
that's certainly my view, Lance. I've spoken a lot. Jose, you go. You guys go first. I've spoken too much.
This time Michelle goes first. Yeah.
Well, my personal view, thank you. My personal view would be that I don't think it's where it takes over completely. I think the hybrid method, whereby it goes back to people being able to have choice and flexibility and being able to have what they want when they want it. And I don't think it's an either or. I think it's a hybrid. There will always be an element of a service that I think people expect on long haul, but that doesn't mean it's personalised for my need. I always, and again, it's a personal thing. I travel a lot. And I just think, why do I have to eat when you've told me when I have to eat? I don't want to eat when you tell me. When a cart comes down and that's when I have to eat, I'm on this flight for 10 hours. Anywhere else in my life, I don't get told, I have a choice. And to take that choice away from the customer is probably where we need to start changing the mindset and everything, is to be able to offer that flexibility to be able to have add-on products, or put, it's a special occasion. You don't know the mindset of the customer every time, and that mindset can change of the customer from one journey to the next. There could be a business class traveller one day and travelling with their family the next day. And I think it's important to understand that we need to put that ownership really into the customer's hands to enable them to personalize their journey. What we should do is give them the tools and the ability to be able to do that. So I see it as a hybrid.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Jose?
Yeah, I fully agree. And what we see, there are some airlines already quite successfully doing this as an add-on, as a complementary to the service already, and give the passenger the choice, for example, to upgrade their wine. Yeah. Do you want to have like in a restaurant? Yeah, do you have the house wine, or do you want to have a better wine? And I think this is very important in today's world, to really offer these choices. Yeah, I mentioned it before, and I strongly believe in this customization and choice topic. And this is no other than offering them the possibility to decide, like Michelle said, when to eat and what to eat and what to drink. Yeah.
Just sticking on the subject of choice for a second, you've seen a parallel sort of growth in consciousness, of environmental consciousness in everything that we're doing. Is this something that's translating into buy on board experiences, Jose?
Yeah, I think absolutely. If you see nowadays, we had a menu presentation with one of our airlines the other day. In the past, we were very much looking into the commercials, into brand fit, and so on. And now we have made a scoring table, and 30% of the scoring table is sustainability. Yeah, it's does this product fit into the sustainability target and structure of this airline? Yeah, and these scores, equally to commercial and equally to brand fit, play an important role. And I think this has significantly changed. And also, if you see the whole society moving, the Fridays for Future, the young people who are more environmental conscious than we have been perhaps in the past, and I think nowadays you would always think people just want to fly from A to B and they want to have the best timing and the cheapest price. Yeah. But I think that going forward, people will not fly if they cannot, for example, compensate their CO2 carbon print, if the airline is having too much plastic on board, if the packaging does not fit, etc., etc. So this will play an important role in the decision of booking even a ticket going forward. Yeah, and then especially on a buy on board concept, for sure, all our buy on board product concepts we are launching are going towards plastic free, for example, sustainable packaging, sustainable products itself, and so on. So I think it's more important than ever. And like I said before, this trend was there quite strong before the pandemic. Yeah. And has accelerated, and people are conscious about this, and it has not died, so it's even back more stronger than ever.
You're nodding vociferously there. Well, everyone is nodding vociferously. The question, I suppose, is this a particularly European phenomenon? Is it something that's experiencing the same rate across the board?
It's not 100% universal, but it is definitely global. In North America, Australia, even and I'm normally based in the Middle East. Even in the Middle East, we're seeing a rising concern and awareness and understanding, and a push to be better citizens, in terms of the environment and play a role in that. And I think, any of our businesses, in our industry that ignores the role of the environment and the impact we have on it will do it at great risk. And Jose was spot on to say, that this is an accelerating trend, and correctly so. And it seems to be a very sensible for us as an industry to ask ourselves hard questions about how we can improve and make sure we have a role in sustainability going forward. And that's, that can be really simple things, making sure we convert our units to renewable energy sources, how we can reduce our packaging, or remove our packaging, or make it a sustainable source packaging. And I think most of us are doing it. Hopefully everyone's doing it. I'm confident most of us are doing it. But making sure we do it in a way that's measurable, in a way that we can explain it to our consumers and customers, and that we don't just play to a PR piece, but actually do it for real. And that's the important thing, that this isn't a throwaway trend that's a little while. This is something we have to do for good.
You seem to be nodding there, Anthony. You want to come in there?
Yeah. I think Robin makes a great point that it's not about the PR push, and the rush to be sustainable has to be measured, and it has to be well thought through, because the costs alone behind the sustainability of an airline, to take it from single-use plastic to a bamboo stick to stir your coffee, for example, it can be extreme. So actually, is the product that you're using recyclable or made from recyclable product, rather than a paperboard product which is disposed of at the end of the flight? Again, it's the age-old argument of rotables versus disposables. But if there's elements of recycled product within that cabin space that can then be regenerated again for recycling purpose, these are the thought processes that I think that people are not taking enough time to consider. Because why would I want to generate more waste at the end of a flight by throwing out a single-use paper card or paper box or a cardboard pressed casserole, for example, when I can buy a recycled I'm going to say it, plastic product which can get me a longer shelf life and cost me 2 cents per turn rather than $2 for a paper cardboard product. So I mean, SQ is certainly working in the space of sustainability, and boxes which are have opportunity to be generated into compost or pellet waste or what have you. But again, I think it has to be a considered conversation across many levels. So my friends who are in the sustainable window will be kicking me, but on the other hand, I need to see the long-term opportunities in terms of cost benefits to the business as well that makes sense. So it's a fine line that we walk, and there are opportunities. But we need to be holistic in the view overall.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. We touched on the subject of technology in a number of previous questions, but I would say the pace and change that's been enabled by technology and this pace of it's enormous, it's breathtaking. What opportunities do you see for emerging technology for our industry?
I mentioned it before. I think it's faster than ever, and also the pandemic has accelerated this topic of touchless payments. Yeah, technology for touchless payments, with the watch, with the mobile phone, very important. But also the choice to order when you want to have something with your own smartphone. Yeah, to really decide when you get what products. And one really important thing, or two things I would like to mention is one thing is the topic of it's not an extra cost. Yeah, you can generate additional revenues out of it. So we have just recently launched with one of our customers a digital magazine. It's an animated magazine, yeah, which the passenger is downloading on their phone, and then you can really, I don't know, click on Coke and you have a Coke ad behind, yeah, or you click on a sustainable chocolate and they explain you how they produced it, etc., etc. And I think here the industry is willing to offer listing fees and advertising fees more than ever than just from a normal pack shot. So this is technology is opening new sources of revenues, but also on the cost side, we have our waste management tool, which we don't use only for buy on board, but also for business class, to optimize the loadings, not to have an overloading of 150%, for example, in the business class, is helping us to reduce the cost, but to be more efficient, because waste, it's somebody who tells you I have a waste rate of 15%. Yeah, it's a great number, but you have to put it into context. What is your lost sales? What is the margin on the product, etc.? And then you decide what is the right waste rate to have this. And by technology, you can manage this much more efficient. So it's you save costs, but also you save environmental and waste.
Yeah,
I agree
I
with
think
you.
that's it. So sorry, Michelle. I was going to ask you actually. I mean, the potential of technology is one thing, but are the various players ready to sort of collaborate to maximize the opportunity? I mean, airlines, airports, designers of aircraft. The retail has moved on hugely, but it seems that certain infrastructure and certain relationships and so protectiveness hasn't really gone away that much. What do you think?
No, I think it has. I think we've seen a big shift. I think people are realizing now that we need to work more collaboratively together to get that solution. And certainly from my own experience at Torvest and the customers that we work with, it's certainly about how we're working together smartly to be able to get that end-to-end customer experience, because we have to blur some of those lines and to work together to be able to get the ultimate experience for the customer. And I think that is one thing that has, coming out of the pandemic, I guess, has, for me, my experience with the airlines that I talk to, they're way more open to that. They understand the need for that, and it's one customer. So we need to work together to see that end-to-end journey for that one customer. And some of those, shall I say, hurdles, barriers that we've experienced in the past, whereby we've all had, we've talked about it, having our sort of like accelerate our strategies, etc., that are in place. I think some of the things that were holding them back were potentially some of the airlines and some of the, shall I say, older systems that the airlines have in order to be able to connect into, made that quite tricky. And what we found is that by working together on solutions, actually we can get to things much quicker, much better, and the customer benefits. And yeah, I mean, we use like the Tourcasting for our forecasting tool and everything else, and that is able to give the airline data and information as well, so that we can predict what's happening, we can predict trends, we can react quickly, and by sharing all that information and data between the both parties, and it not just being retail supplier and airline as such, by sharing that, we know far more about the customer. And I think we've taken steps going forward whereby we've been able to demonstrate that benefit. And yeah, you want to be able to have what you want when you want it, but you want it to be sustainable. You don't want to be overloading the aircraft with weight, etc. You want it cost effectively, and actually to get all those things, certainly in my opinion, the only way to do that is to work together. And I think we'll see more and more collaborations, whether it be, when I say the customer decision making journey, I'm not talking about just when the customers made their booking. I'm talking way back before they actually are deciding to make that booking. So we actually work with our airlines right back to the beginning of when that decision making process. Marketing, Jose, I completely agree, is absolutely critical, and digital, and it allows us to be able to market to a customer right time, right message, right device. That adds value. It's when you get inundated with things that aren't relevant to you or your experience that it irritates you. But if you do it right, it's incredibly powerful. And when we're able to actually be able to share and educate with customers, I think that the airlines can see that benefit and therefore have opened up more to coming on that journey and want to work with suppliers on that solution. Hopefully, Anthony, you agree with me.
I certainly do. But from a legacy or a traditional airline, full service airline, we've got a lot of data on our hands, and there's a lot of information that comes through from the back end that we know about our passengers and our customers coming through the system. If we holistically could deliver that information to the wider community of caterers and buy on board opportunities and those sort of things. Obviously, privacy laws restrict us somewhat, but that information would elevate, I think, the traveller's experience to a much higher level. It's just how do we overcome that privacy concern to make sure that we can deliver a great product across all levels for all cabin classes of all types of airlines, whether it be low cost and or full service. So yeah, we look forward to the next few rounds.
I know there's some ground retailers that are listening to that last comment with avid interest, Anthony, because I think they've been after the information that airlines have for a long time. So I guess we'll have to decide who's friend and who's foe in this discussion. But just staying on the sort of subject of collaboration, Robin, the growth of home delivery has thrown up an interesting challenge, because there seems to be a chronic shortage of drivers and loaders who seem to be running around delivering Amazon packages at the moment. Is there an opportunity for collaboration between caterers to deal with this problem? Is there new models being discussed as to how do we get around this issue?
There is an opportunity, but there's actually also an opportunity for us to work with some of the guys poaching our staff at the moment, because they have peaks and troughs as we do. And indeed, we've started in a couple of countries talking to the guys who are poaching our staffs about how we come and pool things, or how they utilise our staff on downtimes and we utilise theirs on their downtimes. So we've got to be a lot more holistic, not just within our own industry, but more broadly as we struggle to find resources we need in these straitened times.
Yeah. Thank you, Robin. Well, time seems to have flown by, chaps. I would like to ask each of you guys for any closing remarks or final thoughts on our topics. I don't know who wants to kick off. Jose, you're at the bottom right there in my screen, so let's go for that.
Yeah, thank you. I think very important, and I think it was quite well focused in this discussion. It all starts with the customer. Yeah, so we have to really understand the customer. It's not just a B2B business; it's a B2B2C business. We have to understand the needs. We have to understand what he wants. Anthony, you mentioned it. The data you have in hand, yeah, it's really, really a lot worth. We have started to work with some airlines high level on this data and can see really amazing results. And I think this is the future, to optimize the customer journey, to increase customer satisfaction, but also to generate ancillary revenues, which I think this industry is needing.
Great, thank you, Jose. Michelle?
No, I guess I'm just excited by the future. I think the best is yet to come. For me, I thrive on change, and I've been wanting the industry to sort of change for some time, and I think as bad as the pandemic has been, I think actually we now have the platform to be able to do that. And I think, when nothing's sure, everything is possible. And that excites me. So I think there's good times to come. So, as we started, Robin was saying about, setting the scene and will we bounce back? Yeah, I think we'll come back even better than before. It may take us a little bit of time, but I think some of those barriers have gone down, and the way that we operate will change. And the trolley in the aisle, is that a thing of the past? I think we're yet to see.
Thank you, Michelle. Anthony?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, preparing us for the new normal or return to normal travel patterns. Definitely, travellers need to have choice. Definitely, travellers are looking for choice. And really, I think it's going to be a proud day when we all turn the lights back on and the customers can see options for choice, options for purchase, and really making the end user's experience, one of a wow moment. So whether it's low cost or full service, there's an opportunity for everybody in this space. We just need the the planes to get back in the sky so we can get it up and running.
Fantastic, thank you. Robin, we started with you, so let's finish with you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, look, I don't think for anyone who's watching this, and whether they work for an airline potentially, whether they're a traditional carrier or full service, or they operate some kind of hybrid model, or they're a pure play LCC with really strong retail programs on board. I think it doesn't matter which of those segments you're in. The future involves ancillary revenue. We're coming out of the most catastrophic economic circumstances for aviation in our lifetimes, and we have to find ways to generate that additional money just to pay to keep our industry going, and to get some kind of sustainability from a financial point of view back into our businesses. So that's vital. But what I would say is, the key to all of this is, it doesn't matter which of those three segments they are. You cannot underinvest for the consumer. If you want to work with the consumer to make money, to drive that ancillary revenue, it requires thoughtful, disciplined processes in the traditional full service space, the hybrid space, or the LCC space. This is not something you can just dip into and hope you can get some money out of. It requires time, attention, a little bit of investment and thought, and resting on, I can't give you a full proper product because we're still in a pandemic phase. Those days are gone, and I've been on a couple of airlines who've done that recently, and it was embarrassing. And I've been on some airlines who are looking to the future and putting proper products on. You think, I know which one I'm buying on my ticket on next time. And actually, I did this time not book a ticket on someone who's still saying, we are offering you a COVID menu. That is crazy. We've got to respect our consumers. They're paying good money for their fares. They're expecting a proper service, no matter which segment they're in, and we should be respecting that and delivering that as an industry. So the future's ancillary.
Thank you. I hope you all enjoyed this debate. It remains for me to thank Robin, Anthony, Jose, and Michelle for their excellent participation and input. I could have carried on chatting for another hour, but I think Joe will probably kick us off. Hope you enjoy the rest of WTCE and the virtual trade show and conference, and hope to see you all in person soon. Thank you.